Hi, it's Dave again. Welcome back. So this video is going to be all about personal assessment. I'm going to see if I have what it takes. So I'm going to put my ego on the line and talk about some of the things that I think are going to be challenges and things that I might have to bring to the table and things that I'm lacking. And we're going to see if I'm right over time. So I thought it'd be fun to do a video now and then maybe reassess in a couple years and see how I did. So the first thing is I've never been a business owner before. It's always been a goal of mine to retire early and start my own business. What that business was going to be, I wasn't sure, and this is the route I'm taking. So that's the first problem, I guess, is I've never run my own business, and there's a lot to it, especially in farming. You can't just be good at growing things, you also have to be good at selling things, and being a people person I think helps with that. So I think maybe that's somewhere I'm probably going to be good at. I have worked in retail in the past, so we'll talk about that. Another thing, I've never been a commercial farmer, and it's one of the harder fields to really kind of get good at. So that's going to be a challenge for sure, and especially trying to figure out how to do it in this environment. My age is going to be certainly going to be a factor. I'm 48. Farming is a young man's job usually, but we'll see. I think I'm in fairly healthy state still, and one of the things I was hoping that farming would do for me is help me get back in better shape, and I'm looking forward to that challenge. So I've never done the farmers market setup. That's going to be a challenge, trying to figure out how to draw customers in and also work people well enough where I can get sales going and not spend all my time just talking or doing that. There has to be a happy medium there, and I'm gonna have to learn that, and also maybe bringing in other help to help me with that. I think that I'm foreseeing that the harvesting and washing and packing and selling part might be harder for me than the actual growing part. So I think the first place I might bring employees in or have help from friends is maybe doing the selling at the farmers market area. And speaking of that, I don't have any employees. It's going to be just me in the beginning. So I'm sure I'll get a little help from my husband Jason, but I don't think he wants to be a farmer. So it's mostly going to be just me in the beginning until I could scale up and maybe bring employees on. The Houston's climate is going to be certainly a very big challenge. I'm sitting outside right now. It is 101 degrees where I'm sitting right now. I'm in the shade. I have the fan off because I didn't want it to be too loud. The pool behind me and the bubbler is kind of already making some noise, so I didn't want to make it too loud out here. There is a fair amount of breeze today, and we do somewhat get a breeze here in Houston. It's not always just static hot. Like, I remember being in DC working outside a lot when I was a Capitol Police officer. The air would just stagnate there. There wasn't much of a breeze a lot of the time because DC's kind of set down in almost a valley. So it's not as bad as that, but the heat is going to be a problem, especially growing in a hoop house or a greenhouse. Those are going to get really hot, and I spent a lot of my time in the last couple months just looking at options for hoop houses and how to keep them cool, and there's not a lot of great options, honestly. Shade cloth, people use that helps, but getting the temperature inside a greenhouse or hoop house lower than the ambient air temperature is almost impossible. So, and they do have what's called evaporative coolers that cool off the air in the inside the greenhouses, but those work better in an arid environment where the air is really dry, because it works on how much humidity is already in the air that can help cool off the air. And Houston's it's more of a southern type city than it is a desert type city here in this part of Texas. In Austin or further west, you could probably get away with that, but here in Houston, it's pretty humid, so I don't know how much an evaporative cooler is actually going to work here, but it might be an option to try. The farm itself is going to be a challenge. Just looking at the ground, and I'm going to do a soil test because just like with this video, I kind of want a baseline for things. I'm going to do a soil test as soon as the farm is clear, and we'll talk about where the farm is at in a minute. But the ground and the soil so far do not look that good, and that's been affirmed to me by my new neighbor across the street, Gary, who I met yesterday. And he's had a garden and has had some trouble with soil fertility and how hard it is. So I think in a market garden you can improve those things. It's not like I'm going to be growing corn and soybeans out in a field. I'm going to be building beds, so by amending the soils as I go along, I can make it better over time, and that's kind of a challenge for me that I'm looking forward to, honestly. And that's about it. I talked about not having employees, so that's going to be a challenge, trying to get this all done myself. I don't have any infrastructure on the farm yet, so that's also another challenge. I am going to have to put in a lot just to get the farm efficient and functional. So some of the pros, I retired with a pension. After 25 years in law enforcement, I have a pension. So it hasn't fully kicked in yet, but once it does, I'll be paid the back pay that they owe me, and I will have an income coming in, which a lot of farmers when they first start out don't have any at all. The farm is what they do for a living. For me, this is going to be supplemental income to my pension, and while I would like to be as profitable as I can, I do have that fallback of a pension. One of the other things I have is a husband who also has a job, so he makes fairly good money, and between the two of us, we're not destitute in any way, and we can probably afford a year or two of not making a profit on this farm and keep it going. Whereas a lot of people need to make that money right away, or else they're out of it. They can't feed their families or pay their mortgage. We shouldn't have that problem. I'm hoping, depending on how much money I have to put into this farm. But so we're better off financially than some people are, I'd say. One of the things I guess I have going for me is I've been growing things all my life. I've had a garden since I was a little kid. My mom always grew food in the backyard, and I helped her with that. And I think over time, I've gotten good at it. And one of the things I've done is grow in different environments. And I remember coming here to Texas, and I couldn't grow tomatoes the way I used to grow tomatoes here in Texas. I was not really sure why until I started doing my own research. And tomato plants don't produce when the temperature gets above 95 degrees. They just don't have enough energy to put into making fruits and keeping the plant alive itself. So pollen for certain species doesn't work well over certain degrees, and those are things I've learned over time, and I think I can use it to help with what I'm trying to do here. So I think it's still going to be a learning process growing things in the Houston area, especially for the climate and the heat. That's also something that I think we could think about as far as a positive too. So, one of the things that I think about in Houston is you can grow things all year long here. I can grow winter crops. I can start them pretty early in the fall or in summer, late summer, and I could grow probably all the way till the next spring with winter crops. I've had good success in my own gardens growing Brussels sprouts and cabbage and spinach and things like that, broccoli. I think that is definitely something you could do here in Houston, where you might not really have much income coming in the winter time in a climate, say in the Northeast or Michigan or something like that. So while the climate is a challenge, it's also a positive here in Houston, where I can probably grow a lot more things for a lot longer periods of time. The farm itself, the land, it's a blank slate right now. I don't have buildings that are already on site that I have to plan around or anything. I can kind of, and what I've been doing, and that'll be a future video coming up, is talk about the plan that I've been drawing up for the farm and watching other people on how they've done things, and the advice they've given has really helped. Just to name a few people, Josh Satin has been instrumental in how he sets up things, and I have a farm course that I bought from a guy named Connor Crickmore up in New York, who has one of the cleanest and best looking farms I've ever seen. His ideas on how to make a farm efficient and the proper way to do things has been invaluable. And you know, some of these guys that are doing it, out of their own time and effort, they've made these videos that have just helped so much. If nothing else, the YouTube community is so good for learning about just about anything, and it's amazing what people will do to help everyone else out on there. So thank you to them. I'll probably have another video about some of these other great podcasters out there and what I've learned from them. I think that's a really important thing. That's what I'm trying to do here too. One thing I haven't seen for videos is someone that started from nothing and then followed it all the way through. And that's kind of what I'm hoping this YouTube channel is about, learning what the challenges are for someone who's never done something like this and seeing how it goes. And I think that journey is going to be kind of fun, and I hope you guys get something out of it too. Even if you're not a farmer, I know a lot of my friends are watching and hopefully rooting for me. Some of them probably rooting for me to fail, but that's okay too. If you don't have haters, you're not that well liked, I guess. So the other thing I said earlier, I've never been a farmer, and that's going to be hard. But I also think it can be a blessing. When you haven't farmed and done what other people do, you don't really have to go with the way they do things. You have your own way of learning, and failures can always be a learning opportunity. I firmly believe that. I think a good attitude helps. I think that when certain people do certain things a certain way and you learn it that way, you have a tendency to want to do it that way as well, and it might not be the best way. So one thing like I said, I've watched all these videos, and everyone has kind of their own way of doing things, and I've looked and seen what other people are doing and decided some of those things are things I don't want to do, and some of those things are things I definitely want to do. And I think that's really helped, because it's given me an understanding of what works and doesn't work for them. Different tools, for instance, is a really, really good. Tools can be expensive. That's going to be something I'm going to have to invest money into. And some of these things I thought I needed, most of these farmers, they bought them and they never use them. So why am I ever going to buy them? I'm just not going to buy them. I could get away with doing things a different way. I don't need a ton of tools to do those things. And if I could save money by not buying things I don't need, I think that's a really invaluable thing. So that's one of the things I'm saying. You know, some farmers have always done things a certain way and they have to have this tool or whatever. I don't think that's true. And one of the positives of not being a farmer doing these things already is I can come up with a better way. So I'm fairly handy at stuff. My dad was always really handy. He did a lot of his own electrical work and building things. He he built when I was a kid, he built a bathroom downstairs in our house, and I did that in my old house. I redid a whole bathroom, and so I have some tile work experience, some plumbing experience, and a little bit of electrical experience. I put in my own outlets and things like that. And so, while sometimes a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous, I think that when it comes to standard things, I can pretty much do it myself, and I'm fairly confident that I can do a lot of what I want to do on the farm myself, or with a little bit of help, and not bring in general contractors and have to bear that expense, which can get very, very pricey just for the labor costs. So I'm trying to save money there, and I think I can kind of build some things the way I want to do that, and I think it'll be a fun challenge to try to do some of this stuff. And again, YouTube is invaluable. I've watched videos on erecting sheds and things like that, and using the CoolBot to make coolers, and I think I'm gonna do some of that stuff myself. So we talked about my age. Well, my age as far as physical limitations are probably going to be a factor. I also think with age comes wisdom. So some of the things that I probably would have been more hot-headed about at 20 years old, where I think I could just do anything, I might sit back and think about a little bit better and try to come up with a better, more efficient way of doing things. Efficiency is the key to having a successful farm. Growing things is important, but I think being efficient and being able to do things without getting overwhelmed is more important than actually growing the crops. I think some people grow crops in their backyard all the time. That doesn't make them a commercial farmer. Being able to do those other things is what makes you a commercial farmer, I think. So I think being older might not necessarily be a negative. It could also be a positive. So we talked about Houston's climate being harsh. It's hard to grow things in 100-degree heat. But it also, like I said, could be a positive. You could grow things all year long here. So I'm looking forward to that challenge. We talked about that already. So another good thing about being just outside Houston is there are well-established farmers markets here, and they're growing. They're not getting smaller. People really like the option of going out to the farmers market on a Saturday morning or a Thursday evening in Kingwood. That Kingwood farmers market had about 5 or 6 tents the first time I went to it. They probably got 30 now, and that's only in a couple years. So the farmers markets are well-established here. They're putting in more all the time. There's one here in Generation Park near me that's starting up. There's another one up in the Groves that's getting big. And Fall Creek even is having a farmer's market that was kind of fun to go to. So there's a lot of smaller ones here, and there's some big ones, like the Urban Harvest Farmers Market is huge. And thousands of people go there every Saturday. There's no shortage of people who want farm fresh food here in Houston. And I think that's a benefit as compared to a lot of places that probably have to search out and find these people who want this stuff. Whereas in Houston, I think you find that they'll come to you. So, and I guess one other thing I can think I have going for me is how much research I've done. For 2 years now, I've been reading books and watching videos on how to do a market garden. And I've gotten a lot of different perspectives, and I've gotten a lot of great advice in books, not only in the farming, but the business setup and how to go about setting up your farm and how to save money for certain things and put money in certain ways. And I think those things are really, really important, and I'm not just flying into this blind because I've actually looked into this stuff. So I hope to have a business plan drawn up. I've been working on one, and I want to really hone down on the business side of things. And also try to figure out the best way and the best resources to get money and where to put it. So I think certain things are more important than others in the beginning, and I want to start and be successful that way. So I said I would give you a little update on what's going on the farm. Yesterday was a big day. I met with Daniel Dean, Land Clearing and Dirt Work. Daniel Dean himself came out to the property and we walked it, and it looks like I'm going to clear the whole thing. So it's an expense. It's the bulk of the expenses of the money that I have saved up right now. But I think it's nice to start with a clean slate and figure out how I want to go about growing this farm in the future. That way I can kind of plan things out. I could do a yearly plan for how I want to expand, if I want to keep going bigger, based on how much work I want to do and how much work I want to bring in other people to help me do. So that was a big deal. I've been waiting for a while for him to get back to me. He's a very busy guy. He's probably the foremost land clearer here in Houston, and so he's got a lot of people that want his work. So I'm excited to be working with him, and I'm looking forward to just having that blank slate to start with. I also met my neighbor across the street yesterday, which was nice, Gary. He has kind of like a little homestead with his wife. He's retired, got a couple kids that are older, and they have some chickens and a garden themselves. So he's giving me some good advice, and the next steps. I also this week my LLC should be done. The Texas Freedom Farm was available, so I don't have to change my name or anything like that, which is nice. So I have a lawyer doing that. So a couple big expenses this week, but they're needed to get the farm business side of things accomplished and the actual physical land part accomplished. So it's moving along. I know you're looking at me. I'm just sitting in the backyard talking to you, but hopefully at some point we'll be actually building a farm. So hopefully that moment is not that far off. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could think of anything that you think are other pros or cons that I haven't come up with, especially those of you who know me, I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. I'm sure sometimes your ego gets the best of you, and you think you're better at things than you are, or maybe you don't even think you're as good at things as other people view you as. I've had both of those situations in the past, so I'm curious to hear what y'all have to say, or if you can think of anything else I haven't thought of. Send some comments and like and subscribe. So I'll see you next time. Thanks.